The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Welcome to another episode of In Conversation with Alethia. I am your host, Alethia O'Hara-Stephenson. In this show, I sit down with amazing individuals who are doing inspiring things in our community. The show will educate, it will empower you, and it will inspire you. So be sure to tune in every single week. Today, I am honored to have an amazing speaker. In fact, he's a TedX speaker. He's an author of 3 published books. He's a work-life enrichment trainer and a coach, just to name a few. Please, it is my honor to have Andrew E. Guy on this episode of In Conversation with Alethia. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Alethia. I am having a fantastic time already. I know we haven't really started, but man, the conversation already started before we got here. I'm telling you right now.
Absolutely.
It is going to be pumped.
I love it. I love it. You know what? I have to say, Andrew, it is an absolute honor to have this conversation with you. We've worked together in the past.
Yes, we have.
Student, you were my coach, and here we are sitting down having a conversation, talking about the goodness of humanity, finding the goodness in humanity. Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
Me too. I'm very excited too. And I just want to say, thank you for having me. I have been watching you over the past couple of months, even though I know we've worked together, but I've seen your growth. I have seen your confidence. I've seen so many great things that are coming from you. And I'm excited about what the future is going to have to offer to everyone that you've come in contact with. So kudos to you and all your successes. I know it wasn't easy, but listen, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So kudos, keep going forward and blazing the trail.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Andrew. I am truly humbled. Listen, we're going to get right into the heart of this conversation because we only have 30 minutes and 30 minutes is not enough. So for our viewers, individuals who don't know Andrew's bio, share a little bit more about who Andrew is.
Well, really, I mean, when people ask me that question, I try to say I am a servant, really. What I mean by that is that my goal is to lift the next person up, consider myself as the fluid underneath the cream, the individual, whether it be my client, whether it be an organization that I'm working with, is to lift them up to the next level. And it may sound cliche, but what does that simply mean? My goal is to help people to win where they are, whether it be through coaching, whether it be through writing books, whether it be to public speaking, to conference and so forth. That's what I do. And so the greater part of it, if you want to put it into a nutshell, is to help people with their work-life enrichment issues so they can have more wins in life. That's what I do.
I love that. I love that. And, jumping right off that conversation, how did you get to this place of enriching people's lives and, making their lives better? How did you get to this point?
Oh, Alethia, that's a great question. I think that's a question we need to be asking ourselves every single day. It has so many diagnostic attributes to that one question. When I speak of diagnostic, is that we're asking ourselves, that's forcing us to come up with an answer instead of settling for what people are telling us. But how I got here out there, it wasn't really easy. I had to go through what we call the valley. I had to live the experiences first. But what I've noticed in my experience is that we focus so much on the successes as opposed to succeeding, right? And my story started when I was a 6-year-old in Jamaica, grew up in Jamaica. My mom left to come to Canada so she can basically create a better future for us. And so in doing so, I had some struggles as a young man. I grew up in foster homes and then moved to Canada here after some 10, 12 years. My mom came to get me back. And so long story short, we went through some struggles myself. understanding who I am, understanding my gifts, understanding my skills and expertise, and then went off to school in Southern Arkansas University to further my education. It looks as if we're frozen.
I can still hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Let's keep going. And so I went off there and I wanted to find out more about myself. I wanted to learn about what do I bring to the world? Because everyone has a gift, you know. And so when I discovered that my gifts was really to help people to love themselves, then I realized that most people who are working don't even like their jobs. They're just going there. And having working with so many different clients over the years, I realized that we need to help them to enrich that working experience that will transform their life so they can have a better living experience. So here is where I am today, and that's my goal.
Wow, that's powerful. And you touched on Arkansas. I'm going to come back to that conversation a little later in the segment.
Yes.
But when you talk about, the fact that, you've had to go through your own hurdles and your obstacles, at what age did you truly connect and realize that you have this gift, you have this ability to impact lives?
That is such an amazing question. I love the way you phrase that. But this happened at an early age. And a lot of times we'll get that, the light bulb experience, but we haven't really dived into it. So the diving into it came at a later age. Mine happened when I was like about 8, 9, when I was, going through these foster homes, different foster homes and stuff like that. And I was in this home where I didn't get to go to school as much. I didn't know how to read. I mean, I was illiterate, And so I had a whole bunch of different chores that I had to get done. And I came up with this idea of making this little apparatus that allowed me to carry weight and loads and so forth. We call it a hand cart, but no one taught me how to do it. And I figured out how to make this thing to reduce my workload. And from this, I realized, wow, I can look at a problem and find a solution. So that really dawned on me. And later on, I said, why don't I try to figure out how can I develop this skill to where I can use it to help other people? And so 8, 9, around that time is when I actually realized that I have a problem solver mindset at an early age.
Oh my gosh, that is powerful, Andrew. And, I'm going to jump on a fact that you just mentioned, that 8 or 9, you weren't able to read. No. But here you are today. You've got 2 masters. You're able to go out into the world and speak. What message can individuals take from this? Like, to me, this is incredible, for you not being able to read. And here you are, 2 master's degrees later, just to name a few, because I'm sure there are some more that I'm not aware of.
You're working on it. Alethia, I think that, as I said, most times we focus on the success. But I think our focus should be on the succeeding, because we will never, ever get to the point when we say we're successful. Right? We're always moving from faith to faith to faith, and from glory to glory to glory, and from triumph to failure to lessons learned. So for me, it wasn't so much about 8. I couldn't even read to correct your viewers, to make sure it's clear to your viewers. I couldn't even read until I was at 14 years old. I was illiterate. I went to Westview Centennial Secondary School at 755 Oakdale Road in Toronto, Canada. And I tell you, it was a difficult experience for me, because at 8 or 9, you can get away with not understanding or having a reduced comprehension. But when you're in like high school, the preteen age, and you really can't read and make sense of things, I spent most of my high school years in the library trying to count words to figure out how to get this thing happen. And when it clicked, I'm telling you, my life changed instantaneously, because a new world was opened up to me that were in the pages of books that people didn't really tell me.
Incredible. It doesn't matter how you start, it's how you continue on that journey.
Fantastic. Right? And you're absolutely right.
Right? And here you are. There is no end point. You continue to evolve and grow every single day. And that's the message that you're putting out into this world.
That's correct. When we settle, it's like we've said we have arrived. you will never arrive. You'll never arrive. And I tell people when I work with my clients, be it in municipality, and this year we're going to be working with some police officer, law enforcement, because they're going through a lot of things in their brain in terms of this resiliency piece that they need assistance in. And what I've told them, I said, listen, you are basically a pencil. When we get this, that we are a pencil, a utensil, but we also, in order for us to write and to have a point to make, we must go through the sharpener of life. And it's the living experiences that cause us to want to have the desire to become sharpened so we can make a point and write that vision so it can be clear so the world can see it. We have to go to the sharpener. The sharpeners are the challenges that we go through, the hurdles that we have to overcome. And every one we go through, every time we make it through, I'm telling you, we get sharper and sharper and sharper and sharper.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And the best part that I'm hearing is, you are that utensil, you are that point, right? And you continue to just evolve and grow and sharpen each and every step of the way. Amazing, amazing, Andrew. I want to jump to, you touched on Arkansas earlier in the conversation. I want to jump to that point in time. I listened to your TEDx conversation, and you mentioned something very poignant when you talked about, the goodness in humanity. Can you share that journey with us when you encountered the store and the feeling that you were having?
When I think about the goodness in people, I think it's there's a hidden treasure that's inside of all of us. There's a great scripture that grandma used to talk about. She said that, the kingdom is like when a man finds a field, he sells everything and he buys the field because there is something amazing, there's something precious that's inside that field. The human race is that field. But a lot of time we miss the treasure that's inside that field and we go off and venture off into space, and we'll get into it another time. But we leave the actual treasure and go and search for something else to fill that void. My experience when I went to Southern Arkansas was, it was a scary one. I drove from Toronto, Canada in a car that the mechanic told me that, hey, if it makes it down there, I will pay you for that car, because the car was just filled with junk material. And I'm telling you, Alethia, when I think about my life and couldn't read from 8 till about 14 years old, I'm telling you, it was a frustrating one. When I figure out how to read, I went, not only didn't I go to Southern Arkansas, but I went to Seneca College. I went there, graduated with an associate degree, and I said, there's more, I got to get more. Now I can read. Somebody better stop me. And I went off to Southern Arkansas to pursue my degree. Before I got there, a close friend of mine was explaining to me about how, people of color weren't treated properly there. And it got so bad where a gentleman was tied to a truck and dragged for hours until he fell apart. And so this fear was now inoculated in my psyche, and I kept thinking about it. But then there was a greater purpose inside of me that said, you know what? If I listen to the fear, then you know what? Fear cripples you and it doesn't allow you to actually move. So I got over that fear. I stepped into that fear and I drove for 4.5 days to get to Southern Arkansas. When I got there, I was in a contractor, just locked in. My legs couldn't move. I was in this little car, and 1984 Volkswagen GTI. Got there and I met some incredible people. And to make a long story short, because I know that our time is very limited, is that I got there and I enrolled in my program, doing well. And then I went out to try out for the president of the International Student Association. And I didn't make it at the first time, but I had to learn some lessons along the way. And when I did make it,
I'm going to pause. I'm going to interrupt.
You can pause me anytime.
Yes. We're going to take a short break and we're going to pick up the conversation about you running for president. So Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back with In Conversation with Alethia, and we'll pick up the conversation with Andrew E. Guy.
Call Calling all journalism students. Omni Television is once again awarding scholarships to qualified students pursuing a career in third language journalism.
I am very grateful to be one of the recipients of the Omni TV scholarship. This scholarship gave me hope. It made me see that there is space for people like me in the media industry.
Omni is home to a variety of locally produced current affairs programs and daily national newscasts, broadcast in 6 languages. To learn more about Omni scholarships, visit omnitv.ca/scholarships.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Welcome back to In Conversation with Alethia. I am here with Andrew E. Guy, and we're going to pick up the conversation when he was running for president in Southern Arkansas at University. So Andrew, yes, please finish your story.
Yeah, so I was running for the presidency of the International Student Association. And the reason why I decided to do that was because I noticed the influx of international students were coming from all over the world. Mm-hmm. And so they had a difficult time transitioning from where they used to be to where they now found themselves, where there were no family member around. There were thousands of miles from home. And there were some changes that needed to be made. We had students who had 4.0s, who were making 4.0s, but they didn't have the scholarship. I was like, how can you have a grade point average this high and you didn't have the financial wherewithal to make that your dream come true when you're working so hard? So it is incumbent upon me to make this change happen. So I sat down with the president of the university. We had meetings several times, and I said, these are the changes I want to make. And so I went out and I set out to do it. In so doing, every year we put on an event where we say travel the world by way of taste buds. And that's where all the international students, they gather together and they cook a dish from their various, ethnic background, and they bring it together, and we have this event and share it with the faculty and staff, the other students, the American students who are native there. And therefore we invite the community. One of the things that we also do was make sure we have a flag that represents each country or each student and where they come from. Mm-hmm. And I ventured out to get these flags, and I went into the store, and it was owned by this lady called Deanne. And I'm there now in the store called Deanne's Hitchin Post, and I'm looking for these flags. I started looking for these flags, but then I picked up 1 and 2, I got all my flags together eventually and made it to the counter. And I'm looking at this lady. This lady looked right through me, Alethia, right through me. I was like, wow. She was seeing something I didn't see. Like, what's going on here? And there was a shock. There was a fear that went right through me when I was thinking about the gentleman that was, dragged through his deck. I'm like, oh my goodness. So long story short, we got everything together, went to the counter, and then I found out that this lady was also experiencing a tragic experience because her son at the time was, in the U.S. Marines, and he went off to fight the Iraq war. At that time, she was missing her son. And so there was this divine feeling that came over me to embrace this lady. Listen, I have never hugged a Caucasian person in my life before. This was scary. You hear what I'm saying?
And here you are in Southern Arkansas.
Yes. I'm just like, what are you doing here? I'm like, seriously, think about what you're about to do. But here's this crazy part about this, Alethia, is that there was a storefront. There was a glass storefront. And so I'm thinking to myself, I am the only Black person that's inside the store. And what are the chances of the persons out there, the community, see me hugging on this person and think that I was trying to rob the store? Because, the mindset of what was happening, there's a lot of racial tension that's in the South if you haven't been before. And so I was doing it out of fear, but I was doing it because there was a need. I saw a need. The woman just started crying, sobbing profusely. And then she proceeded to explain to me her story, that her son was away and she wasn't sure if he was going to make it back.
Oh my goodness.
At that time, I said, you know what? My mother cried when I left to come down here, and I was on the road for 4 days in a raggedy old car that the mechanic who has a license to fix a car said it's not going to make it. But I stepped out on faith because I believe better. And so I was riding on faith, and so I believed it. So I went in there and gave this woman a hug on faith. Long story short, got all my flags. This woman turned out to be an adopted mother for me. and my wife, and she became the grandparent to my sons, because my sons are American born. And I'm telling you, the love and affection and commitment that this stranger has given me has completely transformed my life. And I no longer look at people from a color perspective. I look for the heart, and the heart is where we find the goodness in humanity.
Oh my gosh, Andrew, I have chills. That is absolutely powerful. You know, you're able to look beyond color. This message transcends just color. This transcends religion. This transcends a gender. Look beyond the surface and see the goodness in humanity. Oh my gosh. How can we step out of fear and just get to that point where you're just seeing the goodness?
You know, the first place we have to look at is what is the narrative? What is the narrative been given to us? What is the narrative that has happened outside of the window? And, you know, when I coach people out there, one of the first things I said to them, I said, please, let's make a distinction between the mirror and the window. The mirror is your personal time. The window is when you are busy staring at the crowd and watching what they are doing, and you miss everything that is happening within you. Get out of the window and get into the mirror. I said, in order for you to discover the goodness that is in others, you must first discover it in yourself. Most people, Alethia, are on social media craving for likes, and somebody's giving them a thumbs up. Yeah, I approve of you. Have you approved of yourself yet? Until you do that, you will never find the goodness in others, even if it's staring you right in the face. And I want to go off on a limb and say this, it's about value. Mm-hmm. It begins with value. When you value yourself, it's almost impossible for you to not find value in another human being. Bruce Lee said the only difference in humans is if they have 3 hands and 3 feet. He said, no, do you have 2 eyes? Do you have 2 nostrils? Do you have 2 hands? Then you're a human. You're just like me. And if you find that goodness inside of you, then you'll be able to recognize it in the next human being that's standing right across from you.
Oh my gosh, that is powerful, Andrew. And you know what? This reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from, I think, your first book, Work Your Words, right? It says, change your thinking changes your words, and changes your words changes your way of living, right? Yes. And it starts with self. In order for you to change the world, you got to be able to look at yourself, change yourself, and then project that onto the world.
That's exactly right.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible, exactly right. Andrew. Incredible. You know, when I think about, you know, the world that we live in today, and everyone is focusing on diversity and differences, how do we get beyond, again, the difference and just find that goodness, you know, find the value and the amazing things that can come from all of us, all our contributions? How do we get beyond the surface?
You know, I want you to think of humanity as a mansion, a massive mansion. And there is a massive door that we have to enter and go beyond that door. Many people, Blacks, white, all different nationality and ethnicity, they stop at the door. They stop at the door and they see my skin tone. They hear my accent. Then they say, oh, they have summed you up and never even entered the door. My grandmother used to say that in my father's house are many mansions. We haven't really entered. You're not hearing what I'm saying here. There are mansions within the house. You're not getting it. So you have to get into the house and then you will discover everything. What does that mean in terms of humanity? That we need to start a conversation like we're having right here, Alethia. We need to start talking one to another. And when we begin the conversation, we need to hear more. We need to hear all. We need to see more, and we need to say less. It's a children's book that we're working on right now, and it's going to be fantastic because we are saying more than we're seeing, and we're hearing nothing. And so in order for us to discover this goodness as a society, we need to get beyond the door, open. You have the key. That means you have to understand, number one, that there is something in humanity that you need. We don't have it all together. No man is an island. There is something that I have that you need, and there's something that you have that I need. And each one teaches another. One hand washes the other. In the end, we are both clean because one hand can't hold the soap and lather by itself. I need the other hand up in here, even to clap. Alethia, we need the other. We need to come together as community. I'm getting too excited right now. I'm telling you, I'm too. Listen.
You're on fire. You're on fire. You're on fire. And you know what? You just referenced another great quote of yours that, you touched on in your TEDx talk, where you talked about, alone, you're a mess. Yes. But together you are what?
A message.
Oh.
Message. You are a mess because the reason is because you can't find a solution for your own problems that you're in. But if you team up with somebody else, then your failures is actually a message and a solution. I couldn't read. You know what? I am actually working with fathers to help them with their sons. I coach fathers to help bridge that relationship with their sons today. And why is that? And they said, well, who authorized you to coach me and how to raise my son? I said, I am a father of 2 sons, but I am not out of the woods yet because parenting is a lifelong process. But let me tell you about some of the biopsychosocial factors that I have been through that enables me to be more resilient than I am today. And so we overcome by our stories. What have you been through? You can't tell me anything about the game if you haven't played it. And so because I have been through the depression, I have been through the ups, I've been through the downs, I've been lonely, I've been left alone by my parents, not because they wanted to, but because they wanted to do something better. And so I have to help these fathers understand you are building the next generation. And what you fail to build right now, you will reap later on in your future, in your old age. And you better make sure you start building now.
Wow, you got to plant the seeds so that can reap the fruit of your labor later.
Correct.
Oh my gosh. Andrew, we have just less than a minute to go, and I want to touch on quickly fear, how to get over fear before we end our segment.
A great speaker once said that fear is believing in 2 powers. There is faith and fear, oil and water. Fear is your belief that what you think you want to do or your desires will not come through. And fear is a crippling force, is an inoculation that cripples and shut down your system from stepping forward. It doesn't allow you to move. How do you do that? You attack fear. You said, how bad can it be? And as a matter of fact, when you step out, we talked about this in our coaching. You went out, you're working on your book, you're running for council, you have your own show, you are speaking internationally. Oh my goodness, you are a prime example of this. When you attack fear, fear has no other where to go but to back up and let you through.
Amazing, amazing. Face fear head on. I love that, Andrew. Thank you so much. We're at the end of our segment. And as I said before, we can spend another hour diving into this conversation, but it has been an amazing honor to have you on in conversation with Alethia. We'll have to get in touch again. So it's an honor. Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation. There's so much to unpack. And I know the conversation is going to be even deeper, and it's what could help your audience get to the next level so they can win where they are.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Andrew. Take care until next time.
All right, thank you.
Join us for another episode of In Conversation with Alethia.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home.